Hey, good evening all. We're going to be doing a tribute video to one of my old employers, Glen Fleck, out of Jasper, Indiana. He operated Fleck's Auto and Truck Repair, and it was kind of a smaller, mid-size operation. Probably had 5 mechanics for the biggest part of the time. Would have had a parts man, and Glenn was also very involved in the business, right down to hands-on. He would be jumping right in there, yanking an engine out of a truck or swapping a rear end over. I guess I was about 20 years old when I went to work for him, and he would have been probably 35. He would have been a really old guy at 35 if you're 20. And there's just too many stories in the 4 years that I was with him to mention. But one thing that really impressed me was how hands-on he was, and he would put a new employee to the test very quickly. And one of his sayings was, "You're in charge," and what "you're in charge" meant was, go make your own decisions. Whatever the task was, you didn't have to go back and ask him 3 different times how to do this, or should I do it this way. And that's something else about him. He really didn't care how you did a job, as long as the job got done in a timely manner and was correct. That was another interesting characteristic about him. And this is, I guess, our backdrop. That's a '84 Kenworth with a 750 Holmes record bed on it, and we put this together, I think, in '91, and a lot of good adventures in that with Glenn. And we own a truck now. We've had it about 10 years, and pull lowboy with it. Still use it as a wrecker from time to time. Walk back here. I tell you something else about Glenn. He would instill confidence in everybody around him. I don't think I've been around anybody quite like him. He was more of after a while, the relationship I developed with him was more like he was almost like your basketball coach. It got to a stage where you didn't want to let the coach down. You always wanted him to be proud of you, and he would have his moments. He'd get a little salty at times, like we all do, being a business owner, and but why is that axle laying on the back of the truck? Well, that I'll share one Glen Fleck story with you. And this was kind of an odd one. I've never ran into this since. But we did a lot of work for fertilizer companies. I think we worked for 5 different fertilizer companies. And we had one, we had to go wrecker the truck in. It basically shucked the differential out in the field. and we pulled it in with this Kenworth. What was odd about it, we went to go pull the axles out, and it had floater tires on the back, and it was kind of hard to get a good swing on the hammer to pop the axle out. And I'd smack on it for a while, couldn't get it out. Ended up taking the tires off because we need to get the hog head out. And I'd slam on the axle some more and still couldn't get it out. Both sides were that way. So out comes Glen, wondering what's taking so long. And Glen was a pretty big guy. He was about 6'4", 250, 275, just built like a mountain, just naturally big boned, strong guy. And he's like, hand me the hammer, Sonny, and he's going to show me how to get those axles out. And well, he reels back and waylays it pretty good, and multiple times, and of course axle still wouldn't come out. He walks around the other side and does the same thing. Nothing happens. So he walks back around the truck, and we kind of both give each other that odd look, like them axles ain't coming out. And we sat down for a little while and scratched our head a little bit, and we finally decided to cut the rear housing out of the back of that rear end, where it's, most of them, they're welded around in the circle. We cut that out. We had to reach in with the torch and cut the axle in half. What had happened, not only did that truck shuck the rear end, it stripped the teeth off the pinion, but somehow it had also twisted the splines in your axle gear and the shaft. So both of them did it equally, which was odd. So long story short, we got the axles out. We did get a remanufactured hog head, I believe. I don't think we fixed it, because they were wanting a truck quick. And we was hoping to find a axle housing, and couldn't find one. And of course, first thing Glen said, he always hit a problem head on. He just said, well, I'm gonna have to weld the cover back on. And like I said, I was probably 20 years old, and I always enjoyed welding, and he knew that. And I said, boy, I don't know, I've never done that one before, And he said, well, you're going to do it now. And sure enough, we welded the cover back on. I welded on the inside too. And away we went. And got the truck back to him, and that was just an example, like, he just wasn't afraid of much, and he would kind of push everybody to think outside the box for a simple solution. So he's been gone about a year and a half now, and not quite a year and a half, but a year and a couple months. And still think about him a lot, and I've always heard the saying is, as long as you're still being talked about, you're always still there. So we sure appreciate the experience we got while working with him and his wife Ann.